Welcome again, everyone, to another session in the 11th Annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment Virtual Conference. It is presented by Northeastern State University in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Session today is one of the 68-hour-long sessions. We have through Friday the 14th, Valentine's Day. I'm Bob Hales, and I have the honor to be your moderator for this session. As a reminder, all of our sessions are closed caption. To view the captions, simply click on the closed caption icon on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see the handiwork of Michelle, our captioner. Today's session is SOS, how to assist faculty with developing high quality and accessible video lectures in not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 easy steps. We have with us Megan Patrick, who is the Continuing Education Coordinator with, if I could move my thing, for the Online Food Safety Program at Michigan State University, who just had their football coach retire.
Oh, yeah.
And Helen Chen. Oh, I mean, you prefer Heidi?
Either way is fine.
Okay. She's been working in the field of learning design and educational technologies for 15 years. And currently, she works closely with faculty to develop and enhance online and blended curriculum in the online food safety program at Michigan State. So, without further ado, let me turn it over to them.
Hi, everyone. We're just going to share our screen here so you can see our presentation here. So just give us 1 second.
Oh. I have to quit it.
Click on share screen. There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Well, as Bob.
Yeah, test us on what we just said. Looks good.
Okay, all right, excellent. Thank you for the nice introduction. Welcome to SOS, how to assist faculty with developing high quality and accessible video lectures in 6 easy steps. My name is Megan Patrick, and I am an academic specialist for the Online Food Safety Program at Michigan State. I am joined today by Heidi Chen, and she is the Academic Technology Coordinator for the Online Food Safety Program, and we both serve as instructional designers for the program. The learning objectives for our presentation today, we are going to review the role of the instructional designer, also known as the IDs, or I'll refer to them as the IDs throughout this presentation. Excuse me. We're also going to examine the challenges that occur when collaborating with faculty to develop online video lectures. And lastly, we're going to explore a tool called the Lecture Development Guide, as referred to as the LDG, as a solution to those challenges. Our norms for today, we do ask that you engage in open and honest conversation with us and ask questions at the end of our presentation. Part of the reason that we are here is to share our work and get feedback from our colleagues outside of Michigan State. So we're really honored to be here, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say about our work. And I hope we enjoy our time together. So at this point, we were going to do a poll, but it's a little bit more difficult. We just didn't have time to build it. So we'd like to know who is in the room. So we've given you some titles here that you can choose from, or you can submit your own. But in the chat, if you could just share with us your current title and what you do, and we'll take a couple minutes to do that.
Faculty, director,
Instructional design manager, some of the other titles.
instructional designer, faculty, instructional technologist.
Oh, we have a
Producer.
food science at University of, I believe that's University of Illinois. That's exciting. Fellow food science person. Okay, give us 1 second to kind of digest who's all in the room here. Okay. Well, it looks like we have a really diverse group today, so I'm really excited to be with you all and to hear what you guys all have to say at the end of this. Okay. Even though we have a diverse group, we really want to be upfront that our presentation is from the instructional design perspective. And our point of view of working with faculty. So let's dig into exploring the role of the instructional designer. According to a report by Intentional Futures written in 2016, instructional designers have 4 main roles. 1, they design instructional materials and courses, particularly in the online environment. They manage the efforts of faculty, administration, IT, and others to achieve a better student experience and learning. They also train faculty to leverage technology and implement pedagogy effectively. And lastly, support faculty when they run into technical or instructional challenges. So it's clear that instructional designers have quite a lot on their plate that they're doing. They're a very diverse audience and skill set. However, Intentional Futures also noted that the main challenge instructional designers face is finding ways to work with faculty in a collaborative environment. So we started to ask, why is this such a challenge? And Heidi and I kind of sat together and started to scaffold why was this challenging us so much? And so we've designated some challenges, particularly with working with our faculty. That's not to say all instructional designers struggle with this, but it's just our perspective. The first challenge is our faculty tend to lack pedagogical content knowledge, especially in the online environment. My favorite example that I use all the time here in the office is our faculty know how to milk a cow, but they don't necessarily know how to teach how to milk a cow, and they don't know how to teach how to milk a cow online. So they're really smart in their subject area, but just the teaching piece is lacking sometimes. There's also different levels of technology savviness. We have, as Heidi's going to talk more, we have a wide variety of instructors, and some of them are comfortable making their own videos, and some of them struggle to implement the correct PowerPoint theme. So just a lot of varying levels. They're also unfamiliar with how to make content accessible. A lot of our faculty, know the term accessibility and that their content should be accessible, but they don't necessarily understand how to do this. What does this actually mean?
Hospital for obviously months and months.
Right.
Because they were born long before they were supposed to be. So a lot of times, like somebody is pregnant or something and they have like any extra things, they can actually go to accommodations and get accommodations for it.
I'm thinking that's must be what it was from, which is very cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I'm not sure. Was that someone from our room talking about accessibility? Okay, we'll just keep going. And lastly, multiple responsibilities, particularly with higher education faculty, is their teaching load is not always their main responsibility. They have to balance, obviously, sometimes research, running labs, running their own team, and also trying to balance their own personal life. So just as much as instructional designers have a lot of workload, faculty have just as much. And so for our next activity in the chat, we would like you to just give us a couple of words that come to mind when thinking about developing, or excuse me, when working with faculty / instructional designers to develop a lecture with accessibility in mind. So if you're a faculty, think about how you'd work with an ID. If you're an ID, think how you'd work with faculty. And so we'll take a couple minutes to do that. Okay.
Time, content.
I really like I resonate with the reactive rather than proactive.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Difficult.
yes.
It is difficult. Yeah, I like that.
Open-minded, that's good.
That's great.
We'd actually, at Michigan State, we don't use YouTube, we use Media Space, and we've trained our faculty enough to give us transcripts sometimes. And there's also pieces of technology that help with captioning. Universal design,
Yeah.
UDL, yep. Well, difficulty when it comes to captioning videos, yes.
Yeah. Oh, in other languages.
Mm-hmm.
Versions.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you all. Those are actually some really positive answers. The last time we did this presentation, it was a lot more frustration. So I'm glad to hear that we have more positive experiences in this group. A couple of them did mention difficult, and so we've experienced this here at the online food safety program. And so Heidi and I really started to ask ourselves, how can we improve this relationship? How can we, as instructional designers, understand the faculty, have the faculty understand us about what we're looking for, and make this more of a collaborative relationship in terms of lecture development particularly. I want to be very clear about that. This is not, this is how to develop one lecture, not a course. Sometimes that gets lost in translation, so I want to be really clear about that. So at this point, we decided to start to develop a tool to help foster collaboration between these two groups of people. And we have called it the Lecture Development Guide. But before we dive into the tool, Heidi and I want to give you some more information about our perspective from our program when we started to develop this tool. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to her.
Okay. So allow me to briefly introduce our program, the Online Food Safety Program at Michigan State University. Our mission is educating food safety leaders. We now have 3 branches: Master of Science in Food Safety, Continuing Education, and Executive Education. Our program was founded in 2002. We used to be a blended program, and we became fully online in 2013. During the 17 years, our program has been growing steadily. We now have more than 600 students and alumni. And currently, we're offering over 40 courses, and we're working with over 100 instructors. The majority of our instructors do not report to our program. They are experts in the food safety related fields from academia, industry, and government. Just like Megan just mentioned, the variety of their expertise is one of the strengths of our program, but the very different background and the context they're teaching and working in pose some good challenges for us. Our program uses video as the main forms of instruction. We right now host more than 400 videos on an internal platform provided by our university. And as we speak right now, there are 60 more videos in queue to be done. And to be more specifically talking about the technologies, throughout the years, we had used different technologies, but right now, PowerPoint is still our main source software to develop the online lecture. Because we decided it's the most suitable technology for our teaching body and for our students at this moment. And the majority of the online lectures, our instructor will just develop their slides, and then we convert them into video lectures. We also provide the slides in the course for the students, which means all the PowerPoint slides have to be accessible. And we'll talk about that in more details. Just to give you a little history of our lecture development guide. Before we have this guide, we send the instructor to Google Documents. They are guidelines for developing online lectures and how to prepare high quality and accessible PowerPoint slides. And what we found was lack of reading. So nobody was reading the instructions and they did not follow the instructions, which in turn partially resulted in some of the lack of the understanding of online teaching practices and accessibility. And there was also lack of a clear process of the online lecture development for instructors and for staff as well. So to solve the problem, we started this project to build a guide, lecture development guide for the group. So we gathered a think group that consisted of our educational technology team, our instructors, and moderators, course moderators. We gathered all the information and tutorials and things that we like our instructor to follow, and the document was 22 pages long. Of course, nobody would want to read that, so we have to find technology that's good for this project, so we decided on Google Slides. We really wanted to make this guide more visual, and we believe it is a more effective way to convey the information. Later in this presentation, Megan will talk more about why this choice of technology was a success. So we have some main objectives of this lecture development guide. The first one is to introduce basic online teaching practice to our instructors. As we mentioned, they have a very diverse background, and some of them have not taught online, and they don't have a lot of experience. So we think this would be a good chance to introduce some good practices to them. And the second important objective is to familiarize them with the concept of accessibility. We are very aware that accessibility might be a daunting task. So we think this is a great chance to bring up this important concept and to help our instructors to start making their content accessible. And the third objective is we're trying to convey very complex information in a very concise way. Back to Megan.
So as Heidi just mentioned, we wanted to rely heavily on visuals to help illustrate our points. And when we started doing this, we really wanted to make sure we have a learning theory behind the lecture development guide. And so we implemented the social cognitive learning theory written by Albert Bandura, I believe in the 1960s. And it basically broadly states that people learn by observing others. So our guide relies heavily on visuals to implement the learning points. We have obviously pictures in place, but we also use things like video so that our instructors can observe the slides that we would like them to do. Okay. So at this point, we're actually going to dive right into the LDG, and we're going to show you our current version of the LDG. I know sometimes you go to these conferences and you see the previous version or the future version that doesn't exist, but we're not going to play that game. We're going to actually show you what we send to our instructors. And as we go through, this is the first slide of the actual guide, and you'll notice that it's quite visually appealing, and that's intentional. Both Heidi and I have a graphic design background, and so we wanted to implement those skills into the guide itself. So it looks really nice and clean and easy to understand. So for the process, as we mentioned earlier, faculty have many responsibilities. So we wanted to break down the process of making a lecture into easyable, digestive parts. And what we did was break it down into a 6-step process. And I'm just going to go through the process really briefly. We are going to dig more into that shortly in Heidi's section, but I just want to give everyone a high-level view for right now. 1, pre-lecture development. 2, lecture development. 3, accessibility. And it's also important to note that even though accessibility is the 3rd step, accessibility is actually laced into all of these steps. And we want to make sure that everyone's really clear on that. 4 is OFS staff review, which is online food safety program. 5 is audio recording, and 6 is post-production. And each step within the guide, I forgot, so these are actually bookmarked links within the presentation. So if a faculty member has already done steps 1 through 3, they can come back to this guide and actually click right here, and it takes them directly to step 4. So they don't have to dig through a bunch of slides. And that bookmark page takes them to a short description of the step. And so we're going to dive into step 1. Step 1 is probably the most important step in all of this, actually. It's the design process in some ways, but in this step, there's actually 3 smaller steps. Our first one is we ask the instructors to develop some learning objectives, hopefully using Bloom's taxonomy. We also ask them to identify complex concepts. A lot of our instructors obviously are working in the industry of food safety, and so they might want to walk the students through an actual plant, or how do you do a food waste plant observation. That's really hard to do in PowerPoint, and so we ask them to identify these concepts early on so we can go to our ed tech team and find a more suitable piece of technology to convey that learning experience for the students. And then number 3 is we ask them to report on their equipment. This was particularly interesting recently as Michigan State partnered with Microsoft 365. And so if you work at Michigan State, you automatically have access to the Spartan 365 is what it's called. And what we found via this micro step here is that a lot of our faculty were actually using Microsoft PowerPoint from a couple of years ago. And so by reporting to us, we were able to get them updated using the latest and greatest PowerPoint, which has a lot more accessibility built into it, especially around alt text. But we also get to hear their audio, what they're using for audio recording, and to recommend an upgrade if they need it. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Heidi for step 2.
Okay, let's look at step 2. Step 2 are the specific guidelines we want the instructors to follow when they develop their slides. We provide a program lecture template for all instructors to follow, to use. The theme of the template is consistent with our program's branding, and this is also a good start to make their slides accessible. So we highly recommend just sticking to the layout of our template, restraining from adding text boxes or other components because they may confuse screen readers. And for the length of the program of the lecture, we recommend between 20 to 25 minutes because we all know for online learners, it's much harder for them to focus for a longer period of time. No hyperlinks or animations because they get lost when the slides are converted into a video. Links are not clickable anymore after we convert the slides, but they can be taken out and put in a separate document and post in the module for the students in our learning management system, which is designed to learn. And for animations, if they are created in PowerPoint, then they don't work anymore after the conversion. But that doesn't mean that they cannot use any animation. Our educational technology team has the ability to make animations outside the lecture, and then we can integrate that animation with the lecture in post-production. So we encourage them to talk to us about any animation they might have in mind. Use less text. So we recommend only keeping the key points or main takeaways for the students, not the detailed text information. Megan mentioned that accessibility is actually laced throughout this guide, and we included elements that are not only good slide design, but also relates to how to make digital content accessible. So here is an example of that. Use larger font size because small fonts are really hard to read for learners with visual impairment. And also the conversion process reduces the sharpness of the text. So it's important to start with larger font size. And the size we recommend are between 20 to 32. Chunking down complex concept is one of the most important process in the lecture development process. Chunking is the process basically breaking down content into smaller pieces of information. We believe it greatly helps with comprehension and memorization. Some typical problem areas are detailed tables, charts, or flow diagrams. In such cases, we recommend we work with the instructor to break down the content into multiple slides. For example, one of our instructors wants a student to learn how to fill out a hazard analysis, and that cannot be crammed into one slide. This has to span into 4 to 5 slides, and maybe we could zoom in one part of the chart, and then as the instructor can talk about for the students. So how much is too much for one slide? A rule of thumb we give our instructors is talking about 30 to 60 seconds per slide. And that also helps maintain a good rhythm of the narration. And here's also another reminder for them. Sometimes complex content may be more suitable to present in a different delivery format, such as a web page, a PDF handout, readings, or even a video. That doesn't have to be on a slide. So we encourage them to contact us, and we'd love to explore the options together. Also use high contrast. This is also an accessibility issue. And we have some examples on the right here. One is a poor example and one is a good example. Just to keep colorblind students in mind, when we emphasize things, we use font styling instead of relying only on colors, and also use texture in graphs instead of colors to be more accessible. Here, Megan needs to jump in to talk about this because she has experience in her course about this.
We do ask our instructors to provide APA references on the slides. This was actually one of the newest pieces we just added, just because a lot, as Heidi mentioned earlier, some of our instructors come from academia and the industry, and they're not familiar, particularly with citing properly. And so we added this subset of the lecture development guide for them to follow, and it just asks them to provide in-text citations on the slide, and you can see an example of it down the corner of how we'd like them to do it. So that's just using the social cognitive theory again. We also instruct them to provide us a Word document with the full references in alphabetical order so that we can go in and add that into Desire to Learn after the lecture is completed. And as I mentioned, because they're might not be familiar with APA, we actually provide them with a style guide by clicking here within the document itself, and it would take them to a separate PDF of APA.
Okay, so next are images. For the images, we would like to use high quality images because the conversion process will reduce the image quality. So it's important to begin with higher quality graphics, especially for those charts and graphs with numbers and text. And also all the images in the PowerPoint or the lecture has to be copyright free. Here's just a reminder for that. And here we listed some websites that offer copyright-free images for our instructors. While the slides are being developed, we asked for a test recording. We find this step very useful. There have been quite some cases where we caught some issues with the recording settings, so we were able to work with the instructor to adjust that and then to correct the issue. So because of this proactive step, we do not have major audio problems when we receive their recording later on. So we've been address quite a few accessibility issues. Here in step 3, we want to talk one more thing, which is a really important thing about making the slide accessible, which is adding alternative text. So our tech team is doing the heavy lifting to make all the PowerPoint slides accessible. but we need help from our subject matter experts to provide the descriptions of all the images they use in their slides. That includes all the tables, images, charts, and graphs. So we asked them to provide that. We see some of our savvy instructors adding alt text themselves, but the majority of them would just send us the description and we add them in. Here are some examples of how to write alt text, depending on the types of images. Some of the pretty photos are just decorative, but others are formative, which can enhance learning, and others are really important data graphs that probably need more detailed description. So step 4 is staff review. The draft are sent to us and we review for teaching practice and accessibility, 2 things. So here's a list of things that we're looking for when we review. We'll identify some missing issues that maybe during the step 1 and 2. And we create handouts if need to. And at this point, audio samples need to be reviewed. And we also work with the instructor on chunking down information if needed. Also, we look closely at the slides for accessibility issues and remediate them. We add alt text, and sometimes we add in high quality graphics to enhance the lecture. And sometimes it takes quite a few back and forth before we can finalize the slides. After we finalize the slides, we send them back to the instructor for audio recording. Since we have a little time today, we're actually gonna play the tutorial that our tech team developed for audio recording. That include all the how-tos on audio recording and how to start and end a slide and what to do if they make mistakes. And also a reminder that please listen to you after you record so you can catch some issues and correct them before you turn in your material. And also a specific reminder of avoid using time-sensitive languages so the lecture can be reused easily in the future. So here are the tutorial. Let's watch it. It's pretty short, about 4 minutes, I think.
Hello, instructors. Recording your lecture is an important part of creating a course module, and we'd like to provide some simple techniques to assist you. My name is Ben Curtis, and I am the media technician for the online food safety program. I'm here to help you with all of your audio-related issues and concerns. The learning objectives for this session are to show an example of what a lecture might look like when it's ready for audio recording, as well as highlighting an effective process for recording audio into PowerPoint. The final objective is to provide some simple techniques that will allow the process to flow easily for all parties. We have found that the most effective way to record lecture narration into PowerPoint is by recording each slide individually. This allows for focus on each individual slide, and it lets you take some time to pause in between recording of slides if needed. Start by selecting the Insert tab of the ribbon in PowerPoint. From there, select Audio, and then select Record Audio. An additional window will appear. Please note that providing a name for the audio recording is up to you and entirely optional. Select the red circle button when you are ready to begin recording. Once the recording has started, you may find it easier to drag the small window to the side so that you can see the content of your slide as you record. When you have finished the current slide, drag the small window back into view and select the black square button to stop the recording. Select Insert, and you will notice that a new little speaker icon has been added to your slide. This is your newly recorded audio. I will now move on to additional slides and repeat the recording process for each slide, while also providing additional techniques that have been found to assist with keeping the recording process efficient. Begin recording. If possible, try to record all of your slides at one time. This keeps the audio for each slide sounding the same as the one before or after it. Start each slide by saying, "Begin recording." You may have noticed this at the beginning of this slide. The purpose of this is to ensure that your microphone adjusts to the level of your voice for each recording. It also helps as we put together your presentation for viewing within the course. We also ask that you end each slide by saying, "End recording," at the end of your recording. This process ensures that you have completed your thought and that you have not ended the recording without finishing. As an example, I will leave the beginning and ending statements for the following slide so that you can hear how it sounds in action. End recording. Begin recording. You may find that you feel as though you have misspoken or even just had to take a break because of a sneeze or a cough. Not to worry. Just go ahead and acknowledge the issue by saying so out loud. Make a pause and then start that sentence or thought over again. Anything that you said that was either incorrect, misspoken, or unintentional will be removed during editing. If you decided that you would like to re-record the audio for this slide, simply select the speaker icon, delete that, which will delete your recording, and then feel free to start over by re-recording audio for that slide. After recording, it is often helpful to review your own recordings. Doing so allows you to self-check, which sometimes highlights a misspoken statement or mispronunciation that you didn't catch while recording. End recording. Begin recording. You may find that you feel as though you have misspoken or even just had to take a break. Thank you for your time. Hopefully, the information shared will help you as you develop your course. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email and I will gladly help you with any issues you may have. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Ben Curtis, the voice talent and media guru of our program. As you can see, the tutorial is short and sweet, and so we really hope our instructors can follow that and do all the correct things when they record their audio. We also highly recommend using headset to record audio. And here are 2 links to 2 very affordable and decent headsets. The last step is post-production, and here the lecture is being converted into video and posted into the course. Our instructor don't have to worry about this step, but we would really like them to have some ideas on what we do to their lectures, and so they can understand why it takes a while after they turn in the material and before the lecture show up in the course. And here, so after their lectures is being produced, captioned, and posted in the course, and this wraps up the whole lecture development process. And this is the last slide for our instructor. We thank them for spending time to follow along. And I also like to mention that Spartans Will is a branding campaign at Michigan State University. So here we go, say, who will keep this food safe? Who will keep food safe? Spartans Will. Okay, back to Megan.
So I'm sure some of you are asking, does this actually work? And our experience would say, yes, it does. We have seen quite a bit of improvement from the point that we implemented the LDG to now. We have seen quite an improvement in the quality of lectures that we receive from faculty. We also sent out a small survey to our faculty to get some feedback on their experience with the guide, and it was very positive. And the guide is also being used by other programs on Michigan State's campus and other universities from when we presented this at OLC last year. And it has done a really good job of helping to foster collaboration between instructional designers and our faculty. Having this guide in place, the way it's set up and with the visuals, is it really lays out clear expectations of what we're looking for from our faculty. So when we can set clear expectations for them, they can be really clear for us, and we can have a good back and forth discussion about the lecture development. And we've had a lot of positive experiences from this guide. Some feedback we received before is, I don't have an ed tech team. How am I going to make this work? And because this is really just chunking down the lecture development process, it can still work without an ed tech team. You can still do the pre-lecture development by yourself. You can still follow the guidelines within step 2, implement accessibility, review your content, and even follow the recording techniques that we watched previously from Ben. And obviously post-production really wouldn't be on your own, but you still need to export your video into a piece that can go into the LMS. We have some keys to our success. We were very fortunate enough that we had a lot of support from the online food safety program team, particularly support from our leadership with this guide. It is sent to instructors as they are hired and when they update material. And because, as Heidi mentioned before, our think team consists of not only our education technology team, but we included other members of our own staff. So we had at least staff buy-in on this document. And part of that too is collaboration and our willingness to be open to feedback from them. And there was quite a few things after we sent them the first draft that we decided to go back and rework or change so it made more sense to them, even though it made sense in our heads. And lastly, our choice of technology, being able to use Google Slides. Michigan State also partners with Google. So if you have an msu.edu email, you have access to a Google account. And so when we make an update, we don't have to send them a new link. It can still be the same link. If they have this saved, they don't have to resave it again. And because it's not a PowerPoint slide, not on 365, we don't have this version control issue. And so that's been really nice. When we have an update, we don't have to worry about sending them a new copy. We just have to communicate the update. That is not to say that we have not had our fair share of challenges. As many of you know, changing the current culture is hard, particularly around online education and the demands of online education. And so we have had some faculty who started using the LDG right away and had success with it. And we have had some instructors who just have been with our program for a long time and don't see the need or desire to change what they've been doing for the last couple of years. And so it takes time to change the culture around teaching. And lastly, time. As many of you know who work in the online environment, is sometimes you don't have enough time to follow the steps that you'd like, and you have to jump into the process and just do the best you can to make sure the course goes live when it starts for the students. And so that's been a challenge that we constantly face as well. So when we created the LDG, we had hoped that it would solve all the world's problems and we would live in a very great world. However, we've realized that it has not fixed all of our problems. It has helped with some, but more importantly, we've realized that we need to have more standards of practice around faculty onboarding and course development. And the LDG will be a part of those other systems, so it has helped to bridge the gap that we've seen identifying those things. And so with that, we're going to open the floor for a 5-minute reflection. And these are some questions we'd like you to think about. How could the LDG be successful for you? What challenges might you face when implementing a guide like this? And what is the most important takeaway from this session? So we'll give you 5 minutes.
something. That's helpful. Okay. Mhm. Wow.
We have about 1 more minute left, so if you'd like to type some of your answers in the chat, please feel free. I know some of you have been doing that, and Heidi and I have been reading them as they come in. Okay, Heidi and I are just going to take a couple seconds to answer some of the questions that were in the chat. There was one particular about, one was, are we using any incentives to faculty who have been with us a long time? That is currently being talked about. We don't have an answer for that yet, but it has been discussed. There was a question about time. I'm trying to find it. The 15, no longer than 15 minutes because of the file size. I believe that actually is probably driven by probably the content more than anything for us, just because we work with a lot of science people, and our faculty tend to want to dump everything into one lecture. And so it really falls on us to try and help break them down. We try to keep it around 20 minutes just because we are a master's level program, and we do expect our students to be able to sit there for 20 minutes and watch a lecture.
The file size, I don't think we have file size issue because media space, which is powered by Kaltura, does the compression for us. So we usually don't have any streaming issues for that. So luckily for us, we don't have a file size issue. Another question about change.
Yes,
Oh yeah, and then.
Okay, I do believe we were supposed to set some time aside for more questions. So I believe at this point, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to either type them in the chat, or I think you guys actually have the ability to talk. So if you'd like to talk, feel free.
Other online programs at Michigan State use this process?
Yes. As we mentioned earlier, that one of the keys to our success is that other programs have used this. This was shared with the Master of Public, our online Master of Public Health program, and it was also discussed at our faculty learning community, which consists of most of the online learning programs on campus.
And just curious about how do you go about sharing this process with faculty?
Partly, actually word of mouth. So Michigan State has it's called the Hub, and they deal with a lot of online learning on campus, and a lot of them come to the FLC on accessibility, which is where Heidi presented this as well. And so it's really been word of mouth, just people realizing that we have this tool and coming to us and asking if they can see it. And later on in spring, we are actually going to present this at MSU's learning conference. So we hope to share more with them. It looks like one question is the PowerPoint available to us. We can share a shareable file with the moderator, and I'm assuming he could probably send that out. Maybe we don't want to. Well, we can make a different file for you guys to have. So
Yes, we're happy to share.
we're happy to share.
You're welcome.
Looks like perhaps we've reached closure.
Pardon, what was that?
Reached closure.
Oh, yeah, it looks like we've
Yeah.
wrapped up. So we do want to thank all of you for attending. It's been great seeing everyone, the diverse audience that we have, and we hope that you found this presentation helpful.
Thank you, and happy teaching.
Yeah, that really was great information. Thank you so much. Thank all of you for attending, and maybe see you in the session at the top of the hour. But Megan and Heidi, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for inviting us.
All right.